All right, today we're going to talk about something really important. It's a foundation with a pretty incredible mission called A Sound Step. We're going to dig into what they're all about, who they're helping, and the really simple but honestly profound idea at the heart of everything they do.
So let's just start with a question that I'm sure has crossed your mind at some point. You know that feeling when you see a young person who has so much going for them, they're smart, they're talented, just full of potential, but something's off. They seem withdrawn, or maybe discouraged, or just stuck. You ever wonder, why does that happen?
Well, the answer, and this happens way more often than we might think, is usually hiding just beneath the surface. It's the silent and honestly often completely overlooked impact of trauma on young people.
You see, it's not always this slow, gradual decline. A lot of the time, you can trace it all back to one single pivotal moment. Just one traumatic experience, something like a major loss or abuse, maybe a huge failure, or even a really deep rejection. Something that just completely shatters their sense of safety and who they are.
And the ripple effects from that single moment, they can be almost immediate. And you know what the first casualty is? Their confidence. That core belief they had in themselves, it just starts to evaporate.
And of course, that internal shift, it doesn't stay internal for long. It starts showing up on the outside. Suddenly, their performance in school, their friendships, that passion they had for their hobbies, it all just starts to slide. And this right here, this is the real long-term danger. Because from that moment forward, the biggest choices they make, the ones that literally shape their entire future, they're not being driven by their potential anymore. They're being dictated by that trauma.
But here's the thing. That does not have to be the end of the story. Not at all. So what's the answer then? Well, this is exactly where A Sound Step comes into the picture.
So, okay, what exactly is a sound step? Well, simply put, it's a foundation that's all about mental health stabilization. They have a laser focus on young people whose lives have been just, completely thrown off course by trauma. They're there to help them find solid ground again.
And their whole mission, everything they do, is built on this one really powerful belief. It's this message of hope that says, you know what? One painful experience, no matter how bad it was, does not get to define your entire life. It doesn't get to write the final chapter.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. What's their actual practical approach to helping these young people?
It's really a clear, structured journey they take them on. First up, it starts with awareness and education. Then it's all about providing safe spaces, places where they can actually have honest conversations. From there, they move into direct emotional and psychological support, helping to rebuild that confidence that was lost. And then finally, guiding them toward making healthier choices for themselves.
And the end goal of all this work? It's what's called mental health stabilization. And let's be clear, this isn't about trying to erase the past. That's impossible. It's about helping young people find that balance again in their minds and their emotions so they can actually go on to thrive in every part of their lives.
Which, brings us right back to the name itself, A Sound Step. It's perfect because it really captures their entire philosophy on what healing and progress look like.
See, they operate on this really fundamental idea. We live in a world that's always pushing for these huge, massive overnight changes, right? But they get it. They know that real, lasting healing, it just doesn't work that way.
And this really gets to the heart of their approach. Think about it. Society tells us we have to make these giant leaps across huge chasms, and honestly, that just feels impossible. Their focus is different. It's on the quiet power of taking just one sound step, one single, stable, supported move in the right direction.
And don't underestimate that one step. It is incredibly powerful. That's the step that can start to restore confidence. It's the step that can open up a conversation that felt impossible to have. And ultimately, it's the step that can change the entire trajectory of a life. It's huge.
And this kind of work, it's not meant to be done in a vacuum. It's really about building a whole community around this idea. So think of this as an invitation for all of us to join the journey.
So who is this really for?
Well, it's for any young person out there who's struggling in silence. It's for the families who are trying to figure out how to help. It's for entire communities that are ready to get serious about mental health. And honestly, it's for anyone, any partner, who just believes in the power of healing.
And that brings us to what might be the most important message of all. Asking for help is not weakness. I'll say that again. It is not weakness. In fact, it is the first sound step, and it's very often the bravest step you can possibly take.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question to really think about. It's the question that sits at the very heart of this whole mission.
What if one single, supported, sound step was all it took to change a future?